The Sterling Grand Hotel hadn't changed in 15 years. Same crystal chandeliers, same Persian carpets, same judgmental whispers echoing off marble walls. I stood in the lobby, invitation card rolling between my fingers, watching the city's elite filter into the annual Madison Prep reunion. Ms. Alexandra Crawford? The concierge approached with practiced deference. The Wellington Ballroom is ready for you. I smiled, noting how different that deference felt now compared to when I was just James Crawford's rebellious daughter. Thank you. I'll wait a moment. My phone buzzed. A message from my executive assistant. Financial Times confirms tomorrow's cover. Market reaction already trending. CNBC wants an exclusive. Perfect timing. 15 years ago, I'd walked these same floors in a borrowed dress, listening to my classmates brag about their family legacies and trust funds. The Crawford name meant something then. Old money, old connections, old expectations, until I broke them all. Oh my God, Alex. A shrill voice cut through my thoughts. You actually came. Melanie Porter Hampton, former class president and current social climber extraordinaire, air-kissed my cheeks. Her eyes swept over my Channel suit with the same calculating assessment she'd once used to judge everyone's prom dresses. We weren't sure you'd show, she continued, voice dripping honey-coated venom, given everything that happened with your family's situation. Ah, yes. The situation. When I'd rejected my father's demands to join the family investment firm, choosing instead to start my own company. When I'd sold my trust fund shares to fund my first startup, causing a scandal that still echoed through country club corridors. I wouldn't miss it, I replied smoothly. How's Thomas's hedge fund doing? Her smile flickered. Everyone knew her husband's fund had lost half its value in the last quarter, just like they knew he'd been quietly begging for investors at every social event this season. Managing, she said tightly. But enough about us. How's what do you call it? That little online business. Before I could answer, more familiar faces approached. William Street Clare, whose father had cut me off from family investments when I went solo. Catherine Aldridge Ross, who told everyone I was having a mental breakdown when I sold my Upper East Side apartment to fund my second venture. Alex Crawford, back from exile. William's laugh carried across the marble floors. Still playing entrepreneur? I took a slow sip of champagne, remembering similar mockery from years ago. The difference was, this time I wasn't here to prove anything. I was here to reveal everything. How is that going? Catherine leaned in, perfume expensive and interest fake. We heard you were struggling? Daddy mentioned something about rejected loan applications. Of course he had. Richard Aldridge never got over me turning down a partnership at his bank. Actually, I smiled, business is quite interesting at the moment. Oh, darling. Melanie's voice carried just enough to draw attention from nearby groups. You don't have to pretend with us. We all know startups are risky. There's no shame in admitting defeat. I'm sure Daddy would take you back at Crawford Investment Group. The growing circle of onlookers barely concealed their smirks. This was what they'd come for, the chance to see the prodigal daughter humbled, crawling back to the fold. Speaking of Crawford Investment, William cut in. James finally sold it, didn't he? After the market crash? Such a shame. But that's what happens when you trust the wrong people. The wrong people. He meant me, of course. They all blamed my departure for my father's eventual downfall, conveniently forgetting his risky investments and outdated strategies. Bill, I said quietly, using his childhood nickname. How's your family's shipping business? He stiffened. Managing. Really? Because I heard DockerTech's new AI system is revolutionizing container tracking, making traditional methods obsolete. His face paled slightly. DockerTech was my company's latest acquisition, a fact that wasn't public knowledge yet. Well, Melanie jumped in, clearly enjoying the tension. At least some of us maintained standards. Not everyone can handle real business, can they? Some people are better suited to smaller ventures. The ballroom had grown quieter, more people drifting toward our group. The show they'd been waiting for was starting. It's sweet that you keep trying, though, Catherine added with folk sympathy. Still chasing that dream of being independent. But really, Alex, isn't it time to be realistic? Join something stable? I checked my watch. The waiter should be arriving any moment. You know what they say, Melanie continued, warming to her audience. You can't fight legacy. We all end up exactly where we're meant to be. Some of us, she gestured to the gathered elite, at the top. And others. Miss Crawford? Right on cue, the waiter appeared with a silver tray. Today's Financial Times, as requested. I accepted the paper with a quiet thank you, aware of every eye in the circle watching. The front page faced down against the tray. Oh, keeping up with the markets? William smirked. Planning your next small venture? I turned the paper over slowly, letting them all see the cover. My portrait, professional and powerful, above the headline. Alexandre Curewford, ENTUREQRENUR of the year. How one woman built a $12 billion tech empire in secret. The silence was absolute. Melanie's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on marble. Catherine's carefully maintained smile cracked. William looked like he'd been slapped. You were saying something about legacy? I asked softly. About ending up where we're meant to be. The article continued below my photo. Crawford Technologies' revolutionary AI systems have quietly dominated market sectors from shipping to banking, with over 70% of major financial institutions now running on their platforms. Sources confirm upcoming IPO could value the company at over $20 billion. That's impossible, William stammered. Your father said. My father didn't know? I cut in. None of you did. That was the point. I let them digest that as I pulled out my phone, pretending to check messages. Actually, I was recording their reactions. A little gift for my PR team, who'd orchestrated this moment down to the last detail. But the loans. Catherine's voice had lost its condescending edge. Daddy said you were begging for financing. Your father, I smiled, like everyone else, saw exactly what I wanted them to see. It's amazing how much you can accomplish when people underestimate you. The whispers had started. Phones were coming out as people Googled my name, finding the carefully timed press releases that had just gone live. The truth about who really controlled the technology revolutionizing their family businesses. Now, I continued, enjoying the way they flinched at my voice, about that small venture of mine. The night was young, and I hadn't even shown them everything yet. After all, the magazine cover was just the beginning. The Wellington ballroom buzzed with barely contained chaos. The same people who'd been smirking at my failure minutes ago were now frantically typing on their phones, discovering just how deep my success ran. DockerTech, mainframe systems, quantum finance. William muttered, scrolling through his phone. You own all of them. Technically, I replied, accepting a fresh glass of champagne. Crawford Technologies owns them, I just own Crawford Technologies. Catherine's husband, a junior partner at Goldman Sachs, pushed through the crowd. Alex, we should talk. Privately. About potential partnerships. Like the partnership your firm rejected last year. I smiled. When you said my proposal was amateur at best. He paled. That rejection had cost Goldman billions in potential revenues. Their competitors, who had signed with my company, were now dominating the AI-driven trading market. My phone buzzed again. A message from Marcus, my head of acquisitions. Street Clair shipping stock down 12% in after-hours trading. Investors connecting the dots about Docker Tech. Want me to proceed with the takeover? I typed back a quick hold. No need to crush William's family business tonight. That could wait until Monday. Alexandra. A familiar voice cut through the chaos. We need to talk. Richard Aldridge, Catherine's father and CEO of First Manhattan Bank, stood before me. The same man who'd laughed me out of his office 3 years ago when I'd approached him about modernizing their banking software. About what, Richard? About how First Manhattan's trading platform is now obsolete? Or about how your competitors are using my company's AI to outperform you 10 to 1? His face reddened. You deliberately misled us. No, I corrected him calmly. I offered you a chance to be part of the future. You chose to see what you wanted to see. A failed social-like playing entrepreneur. That was your mistake, not my deception. Melanie, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly found her voice. But your father, after the crash, you let everyone think. I let everyone think exactly what they assumed. I cut in. That I was desperate, broken, asking for loans I didn't need from banks that didn't matter. It's amazing how much people reveal when they think they have the upper hand. The screens around the ballroom, meant to show nostalgic photos from our prep school days, flickered to life. A series of business headlines began scrolling. Crawford Technologies revolutionizes banking security. AI giant acquires Docker Tech in stealth move. Tech's most mysterious CEO finally revealed. My PR team had perfect timing. You've been planning this, William accused. All of it. The reveal, the timing. Of course I have. I met his eyes steadily. Just like you all planned every snide remark, every closed door, every whispered rumor about my failures. The difference is, my plans actually worked. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Janet, my chief legal officer. Board memo leaked. First Manhattan considering emergency weekend session. Want me to send the acquisition proposal now? I smiled faintly. Richard must have missed that detail in the Financial Times article. The part about Crawford Technologies having enough cash reserves to acquire his bank outright. Mr. Street Clair? A young analyst pushed through the crowd, phone pressed to his ear. Sir, the Hong Kong office is calling. Something about our shipping contracts being invalidated. William's face went from red to white. What? Docker Tech's new terms of service? I explained. They take effect at midnight. Didn't anyone read the fine print? The room erupted in fresh chaos. More phones ringing, more urgent whispers. These people were finally realizing that while they'd been mocking my small business, I'd built something that could make or break their family fortunes with a single policy change. Why? Catherine's voice cracked slightly. Why do it this way? Why not just tell everyone from the beginning? I turned to her, remembering all the times she'd excluded me from charity boards and social committees after my breakdown. Because you all needed to learn something. Success isn't inherited. It's built. And sometimes, it's built in silence while people like you are making noise. Alexandra. Another voice, older, commanding. Bernard Wellington AI, our old headmaster and current board member of half the companies I now controlled. This is unprecedented. No, I corrected him. This is overdue. For every girl you told to think smaller, dream safer, stay in her lane. For every innovation you dismissed because it didn't come from the right family or the right background. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. My phone lit up with a message from my executive assistant. CNBC anchor waiting. Live interview in 20 minutes? I checked my watch. Right on schedule. Now, I addressed the room. If you'll excuse me, I have a business to run. Several, actually. As I turned to leave, Melanie grabbed my arm. Wait, what happens now? To all of us? I looked at her perfectly manicured hand, then back at her face. That depends. On Monday, Crawford Technologies begins implementing its new partnership standards. Companies that align with our values will thrive. The others, I shrugged. Well, there's always your family names to fall back on. Oh, wait. The silence that followed me to the door was sweeter than any revenge I could have planned. But this wasn't about revenge. This was about power. Who really had it? Who only pretended to have it? And who had been quietly building it all along? Outside, my driver held the door to a sleek Maybach. Not the flashiest car in Manhattan, but certainly the most expensive. As we pulled away from the Sterling Grand, I opened my laptop to review the next phase of acquisitions. The reunion had been just the beginning. Monday would bring the real fireworks, and I hadn't even revealed my biggest move yet. The Sunday headlines rolled in like thunder before a storm. Tech's hidden giant. Crawford Technologies, set to dominate market. Wall Street stunned by stealth success of Madison Prep alum. First Manhattan Bank calls emergency board meeting. Street Claire shipping stock plummets in pre-market trading. I sat in my penthouse office, watching the sunrise paint Manhattan's skyline in shades of gold. The same view I'd had when I started this journey, back when the penthouse was my only asset and Crawford Technologies was just 3 people working out of a converted storage room. The CNBC interview has 2 million views already, my PR director Sarah reported. Social media is exploding. #Crawford takeover is trending. And the other matter? She smiled. Your father's assistant called. He's demanding a meeting. Of course he was. James Crawford, the man who told me I was throwing away generations of legacy when I started my company, would be watching his carefully constructed world unravel. Schedule it, I said, for after the morning announcements. My phone buzzed. A message from Melanie. Alex, please. Thomas's fund is already down 30%. We can work something out. I archived it without replying. Let her feel the same desperation she'd enjoyed watching in others. At precisely 9:00 a.m., Crawford Technologies' new partnership terms went live. The requirements were simple but revolutionary. Complete transparency in business practices, ethical AI implementation, and a minimum 30% diversity quota in executive positions. Companies had until Friday to comply or lose access to our systems. The market reaction was instant. Companies that had sneered at my small business were now watching their stock prices swing wildly based on whether they met Crawford Tech standards. Ms. Crawford, my assistant's voice came through the intercom. Your father is here. He wouldn't wait. I straightened my Armani blazer. Send him in. James Crawford had aged since I'd last seen him. His hair was grayer, his stance less commanding, but his eyes still held that same mix of arrogance and anger. "What have you done?" he demanded without preamble. "Built something," I replied calmly. "Isn't that what you always wanted?" "Built something? You've destroyed relationships that took generations to establish." William's father called me in tears. Richard Aldridge is facing a board revolt. Fascinating how quickly generations of relationships crumble when the power dynamic shifts. He slammed his hands on my desk. "This isn't how business is done." "No," I agreed. "This is how business should be done. Transparent, meritocratic, forward-thinking. You've made enemies of everyone who could have helped you." I pulled up a screen showing Crawford Technologies' market valuation. The number made him step back. "I don't need their help, Dad. I never did." "That's what you never understood. While you were all protecting your little circle of influence, the world changed. I just changed with it." "And now what?" he demanded. "You'll destroy everything we built." "No, I'll rebuild it. Better, stronger, more equitable." I stood, meeting his gaze. "The acquisition offer for Crawford Investment Group is still open, by the way. Though after today's market shift, I might need to adjust the price down." His face reddened. "You wouldn't dare." "Actually, I already have. Check your email." As if on cue, his phone buzzed. The color drained from his face as he read the updated offer. 40% lower than last week's valuation. "You can't." "I can. I did. And on Friday, when our new standards take effect, it'll be worth even less." I walked to the window. "Unless, of course, you implement the changes I've outlined, starting with the board composition." He stared at me, finally seeing what everyone else had missed all these years. I hadn't just built a company. I'd built a revolution. "The car will take you back to your office," I said, effectively dismissing him. "You have until Friday to decide." After he left, I opened my laptop to join the emergency board meeting of First Manhattan Bank. As their newest major shareholder, a position I'd acquired through a series of shell companies, I had some suggestions about their future direction.